Cris Collinsworth back here on the Rich Eisen Show. How are you, Chris?
I'm doing great, Rich. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. So were you talking to Chiefs coaches? Is that what you were talking to?
Yeah, it was Matt Nagy, who's the co-offensive coordinator now with Brad Childress with Kansas City. Of course, Doug Peterson kicking butt in Philadelphia right now, and so those guys have taken over.
So what is your concern about the Chiefs' offense, or you have no concerns? What about the Chiefs' offense going into this game in Pittsburgh?
They did a little better. They didn't have such a good day against Houston, turned it over a bunch of times, and they did a little bit better this past week. But it is, they haven't put a lot of points on the board, but they did get it down to the end zone. They had a fumble right at the end zone. They had a lot of turnover snaps over their heads and different things so far this season. But, it's Alex Smith, it's Andy Reid, it's West Coast-ish kind of offense with some added stuff in there with some, speed option stuff out of Alex Smith. And they've got Eric Fisher, Mitchell Schwartz on the outside. But the best player they have up front on that offensive line is a guy I'm watching right now. It sounds strange to say this, but I'm watching every offensive lineman sort of one at a time. But this Mitch Morse, their center, is a really good player. A really good player, and I don't know if many people know about him. So there you go. There's your nugget for today. How about that, Rick?
I like it, Chris. Do you think we'll see Jamal Charles make his season debut Sunday night?
I was trying to wiggle that out of Matt Nagy, and he wouldn't give it up. So I still don't know, but I hope so. Though it certainly would be great to see Le'Veon and Jamal both appear on Sunday Night Football, coming back from their respective having to sit out for a while.
Well, but before we get to Le'Veon Bell and the Steelers' offense, the aforementioned Doug Peterson and his West Coast offense, with everybody's favorite North Dakota Bison, put the bang thing on the Steelers. I mean, just absolutely smoked them. What did you see on film that they did that maybe Alex Smith and Randy Reid can take advantage of here?
I think that it was just such an interesting day from so many standpoints to see Wentz do some of the things that he did in that game. There were a couple of times that, I really like Carson Wentz coming out, and a couple of times he had a guy wide open in the flat, a bootleg or a play action, and I was like, me, I talk to my television set even when I'm alone. I'm like, hit it, take it, one of those kind of things. And he pulled it back, and I was like, oh, stupid rookie, and he pulled it back and hit one 40 yards down the field to the tight end. I mean, those are the kinds of things that he was consistently doing sort of in a counterintuitive kind of way, but just making it work and making it click, and they were getting the running game going. And, of course, the scramble plays that kid makes, and we all saw the one, the Sproles, and that was tremendous. But what he did was – scramble, but then turn sideways down the line of scrimmage instead of just running the ball. And that's exactly what freed up, and the Steelers didn't plaster over the receiver, and they blew a couple of really simple zone coverages out there. But, it was Wentz that really broke them down on many occasions. And you also have to say the Eagles defensively are completely different than what they were a season ago. I mean, they just, with Jim Schwartz, they are unleashing the hounds out there. Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham and even Benny Logan on a couple of plays got so much pressure and just took the guards of the Steelers and crammed them right back into Ben Roethlisberger in a way that I haven't really seen before.
Cris Collinsworth joining me here on the show. I had Jim Nantz on in hour number one, Chris, because he saw Trevor Siemian up close and personal in Denver.
Did too, yeah.
And you did too. He saw also Wentz in that game that you were just talking about. You saw Dak Prescott last week, and I said to him, why are all these first-time quarterbacks performing so well early on? And he essentially said, well, he's just going to chalk it up to it's a new generation, and they might be more athletic and more attuned to spotlights in a way that maybe other previous generations weren't. You are not only somebody who played in that previous generation, but have watched and called games in this generation, Pro Football Focus. You've got the analytics down pat. I'd love for you to put it all together and put your mind on what I think is the story of the year so far, which is all of these young first-year quarterbacks doing their thing so far.
Well, I think they grew up in a different system. When I played high school football, we were all running the option or the wishbone or something, right? And so then when you got to college, you kind of learned a little bit about the passing game. Then I got to the NFL, you sort of learned a little bit more. But that doesn't really apply to these guys anymore. In high school, they're all it's sort of like basketball. You remember when everybody used to play like Bobby Knight, and it was half court, and you ran plays, and you did. And then, the running rebels came along, and everybody wanted to play fast break, and the kids didn't want to play half court anymore. They wanted to play fast break. Mm-hmm. Well, that's what's happening in football, too. In high school now, in Pee-wee football, they're going spread offenses. They're making reads. They're throwing the ball around. They understand what they're doing. They're going to these quarterback camps. They're going to Peyton Manning's camps, and everybody now is teaching the passing game because you can't recruit these kids unless you're throwing the football around. And so they're coming to the NFL now so much more experienced and so much more knowledgeable about the passing game than they've ever been before, and you certainly see it. Prescott I'm sitting there looking at this kid. He doesn't even flinch in the pocket.
I mean, you mentioned Brady. You dropped the Brady name during the broadcast.
I mean, just the way he stood in the pocket. Let me give you something from the Pro Football Focus stats. He is the only quarterback in the league that has yet to throw an interceptable ball. So in other words, the PFF grades, it doesn't matter if the ball is intercepted or not. You get credit for an interception if you throw a ball that should have been intercepted. I mean, that's how strict this thing is, right?
Yeah.
And so he is the only one so far that has yet to throw an interceptable ball. Obviously hasn't had one intercepted, but hasn't even put one in a dangerous spot yet through 3 games. And that's pretty remarkable.
And yet the two triplets that I've been around with Irvin, who I'll be seeing tonight prior to tonight's Thursday night game, and Troy Aikman, who I had on Monday, both just say, you know what, Romo's coming back regardless of how Prescott's playing. They just know Jerry Jones. They know the way he operates. When Romo's healthy, he's getting it back. What do you think, Chris?
I think it depends. I really do. If you've got, are they 2-5 or are they 6-1? Or you're not gonna shake up the ship for a guy that hasn't played for a couple of months when you know darn well every week that you give him to recover is going to be the best chance that Tony Romo is going to come back as healthy as possible, not just this year, but in future years. And he's had that history of those backs. I really don't think it's as cut and dry as that. Everybody keeps telling us that, and that's what they all told us too, and I appreciate what Emmett and Troy said, and that's exactly what they told us too. I just don't think you do anything crazy and make that move because of the health issue, and you know that Tony would be getting healthier if he waited another week and then another week and whatever happens. So.
Cris Collinsworth joining me. So Le'Veon Bell comes back. Do you expect any rust? What do you expect this offense to look like Sunday night against Kansas City?
Yeah, I would think there'd be a little bit of rust, but it's not like he's coming back from an injury, right? He's coming back from a suspension, so he's been working out, and he's a unique player. He really is. He's a guy that, especially when you look at this team right now without Martavis Bryant on the team, and Marcus Wheaton had 3 drops in the game. Eli Rogers is another guy that's hurt. Sammy Coates is much more of just a deep threat kind of a guy. No Heath Miller on the Steelers now. They really need that other receiving threat to take some pressure off of Antonio Brown. Jesse James has done it a little bit. But Le'Veon Bell is a guy that you could switch him from an RB to a WR in a second, and not one person out there on that team would think, oh, well, he's just a running back playing wide out. No, he's a wide receiver that is big and stout and strong enough to block and play running back, and it's a dangerous combination. In 2014, I think he had 83 catches, almost 1,000 yards. So that's a huge relief for Ben Roethlisberger and a guy that he just needed another option because Antonio Brown basically was doubled on every snap of the ball in the game a week ago.
Yeah, Chiefs and Steelers, Sunday Night Football on NBC. The week starts tonight on NFL Network, Thursday Night Football with the Dolphins and Bengals. And, people in my industry have been coming up to our industry, obviously, come up to me and say, well, now NBC's part of Thursday Night Football. I'm like, now, let's not forget who was the first analyst of Thursday Night Football on NFL Network. Who was the guy in the booth with Brian Gumbel?
I'm going to get a little taste of it tonight. I'll be down there, hopefully, if it's not pouring I'm a little bit of a wimp. I'm used to being inside, but
okay. No, look, I was on charters with you back in the day. That first Thanksgiving night. When it was the Chiefs and the Broncos, and Adam Schefter broke news that Jay Cutler was going to start in place of Jake Plummer no matter what was going down that night. I remember that night.
What is Thanksgiving, though? I used to know what Thanksgiving was. It doesn't have a lot of relevance to me anymore.
Yeah, this is meal with a big bird, but, that's not really important right now. We'll talk about it. Thanks for coming on the show, Chris. I love the Pro Football Focus. Love it.
All right, buddy. Thanks, Red.
You got it. And at Collinsworth PFF, he's even changed his Twitter feed.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.